friends of the bike and friends of MCBC, Marin County Bicycle Coalition. Welcome to the inaugural Celebrity Bike Chat episode, Lost Summer series. We've got a tremendous roster coming for you all throughout the summer and the early autumn. First, I'm going to introduce our friend Caroline Diesendorf. She's my co-host, my sidekick. So Caroline, take it away, would you?
All right, thanks, Kaiser. Welcome, everyone. This is our first official live Lost Summer chat. We're really excited to have Courtney joining us today. Before we get into that, though, I just want to give you a little background. Marin County Bicycle Coalition works to create a healthy, connected, and sustainable Marin by promoting bicycling for everyday transportation and recreation. We have 3 programs. Our off-road program expands mountain biking through education, environmental stewardship, and trail development. Our road program works to promote bicycling as a safe and convenient option for people of all ages and abilities. And we advocate for the completion of Marin's bike routes. And our education program, which administers a Transportation Authority of Marin's Safe Route to School program, teaches 10,000 kids annually how to bike to school. We rely on your support to accomplish these goals. So if you're not already a member, please consider becoming a member of MCBC.
That's a mouthful.
That's a lot.
But enough of us. You're here to see our first cycling celebrity, and frankly, I'm gushing a little bit. Current UCI World Cup leader, champion, 2018 women's cross-country champion. She's a Red Bull athlete. She's a Stanford graduate. I mean, this woman can do everything. Kate, welcome. How's your Friday? What'd you do today?
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you again and good to be here. What did I do today? I woke up, I got in the gym a little bit. So I'm up at Sugar Bowl at altitude camp and able to be in the gym again. There was no one else there. So that's a treat. It's a little bit of an upgrade from my garage. And then got out on the trails this afternoon.
So did you ride your bike at all, or is it all weights?
No, and I did. I went out on the trails this afternoon. So usually it's kind of like 1.5 to 2 hours of each. And a little break and then maybe a nap in between.
That's a siesta. You're a very sophisticated adult woman. You don't take naps anymore. You have siestas. Yeah. What trail did you hit while you're up there?
So actually today I was on the local Sugar Bowl trails, which involved a lot of like checking trail forks, riding for 10 minutes, checking trail forks. But I was able to get up and do Razorback and a couple of the other really awesome trails up there. So I'm excited to start learning this area a little bit more.
Fantastic. We've seen on Instagram last couple of days, you've been Instagramming with Katarina Nash. Were you riding with her today or were you solo?
I was solo today, but it has been awesome up in Tahoe. There are so many super badass women like Caroline to ride with, and I've been able to ride a bit with Katarina, and that's always really special for me. I have some pretty distinct memories growing up of Katarina being just so cool to me at World Cups. You know, when I was a junior, she would take time to come and say hi, and I remember specifically like the first World Championships I ever went to, I got a concussion and ended up sitting out the race, and Katarina like came over to me and talked to me. So I've come pretty far, hopefully, from that time, but she's always been a really great positive influence on me, and it's fun to be able to rip with her up here.
Awesome. I want to talk a lot about what Marin County meant for you growing up here and riding. You were a high school athlete, and you started off, we all know the story, ripping around on TAM with your father on the back of a tandem. That's fun. Hardtail tandem. It's like being at the back of a school bus all the time. But you were part of the NICA program. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I grew up, riding on the weekends with my dad. And I think in that way, Marin had a huge, huge impact on me. I think if you're a kid who grows up in Marin, you just love being out on the mountains, or you're at least forced to if you don't like it. And I think for me growing up, that's what the weekends were all about. It was going to Stinson Beach, riding the trails with my dad, hiking, just spending as much time outside as possible. And I think, particularly for me when I was 5 or 6 and was able to get on the back of that tandem, all of a sudden I felt like the mountain opened up to me and I could just go so much further. So when you're that age and you're on a tiny 16 inch wheel bike. We're riding around College of Marin and it's not that exciting. But as soon as I got on the tandem, we were able to, go to the top of Mount Tam, go to Mountain Home Inn for pancakes, and start to explore. And I think for me, that got me hooked immediately on riding my bike. And it wasn't until much later that I really even realized mountain bike racing was an option.
I'm checking my watch. It took exactly 9 minutes for the word pancakes to come out of Kate Courtney's mouth. So,
but really, is it pancakes or waffles? Like what's
to be honest,
straight into the dietary question.
Important things. For me, they're the same food in a different form, and I like both and eat both regularly. I will say that I appreciate in waffles, in a crispy waffle, there are little pockets for your maple syrup. So I would say that that's my favorite pre-race, but I do end up eating pancakes a lot as well.
All right, I'm going to try to reel this back in because we have more dietary questions later. There's some stuff in the news that we got to address later. But I saw your Father's Day post riding with your Papa Tom, heck of a guy, a ripper in his own right. When you get home and you want to rejuvenate and take in the mountain again, what trail do you hit?
So it's always funny. I feel like I don't maybe ride like the best of Marin. A lot of what I do when I'm home is just ride up Old Railroad Grade and then ride down Eldridge to my parents' house. So it's like an hour and 20-minute loop. And I pretty much can do that, anytime. Like if I get home and I've already trained, but I drive up to my parents' house, or I'm about to fly out for a World Cup, or I just got home, that's our go-to like quick recovery ride. And then otherwise, Coastal is one of my favorite trails. So we do that from my parents' house a lot.
Yeah, bang on. Those are great trails, And if you ever feel guilty for riding like the ho-hum Railroad Grade or Eldridge, take a friend who's not from Marin County on it, and they'll lose their minds how beautiful it is. They're like, oh my, this is amazing. It's like, yeah, this is Eldridge and Railroad Grade.
Absolutely. And we have so many other trails. Like I love, one of my favorite trails is Solstice and riding around in Tamarancho. I think there's just so many options. But I would say those kind of scenic classic Marin rides are still my favorites.
Yeah. Well, if it helps you at all, since you're not down here, Solstice has been closed for a while. Santa Monica Goes asked us not to use it. So.
Oh, no.
No, it's okay. It's because, it's because of the COVID, and they just want to make sure that, when kids were on campus and stuff, but, mountain bikers being mountain bikers, people are like, oh, but no, it's fine. And
I promise, I've not been to Marin in a while, but but good to know. Thank you for
yes. I want to bring something up that I think about you. You're well educated, clearly very smart, talented as hell on the bike. I love that you're a bike racer, but it's a hard sport. I mean, classically, historically, roadies are, guys who came off the farm, or the other option was a factory work for them. Do you ever find yourself in the middle of a hard training block or anything saying, maybe I could get a job and stop racing my bike? What inspires you to keep pushing so hard?
Well, I'd say, first of all, one of the really cool things about the women's field, and particularly in the U.S., is if you look at the women that I kind of have as role models in the sport, all the women on the mountain bike side have gone to college and are really, highly educated, really successful women on and off the bike. And I think for me that that makes, our side of the sport really special right now, especially in the States. For me, I think, I didn't start bike racing with this grand plan of being a pro and having it be my job. I just kind of took the next step every time I had the opportunity to do so, and had the opportunity to start racing at the top level, and honestly love it. Like I love waking up and riding my bike every day, and I hope to be able to do that as long as possible and to be able to compete at that level. So there are tough days, of course. There's tough days in anything, but I think it's a real honor and a privilege to be able to do this, and also to be able to share it with my community and with riders all around the world.
I was at NorCal High School League coaching clinic this winter, and they posted up a podium photo from when you were in high school. And it was, I don't know who it was. Somebody else had won the white race. I can't remember if you were in second and third. And they made this comment of like, one of these girls is now a world champion. One of them stopped racing her bike completely. and the other one, is riding for fun. But they're like, our goal is to make these lifelong athletes. And I think what's so cool about you is you have progressed so far through the sport, obviously, to be literally the best, but you're so down to earth. And I think recognize that like winning isn't always everything, and like there's good or bad days, but like you're saying, you're just pushing yourself and seeing how far you can go.
Yeah, I think, I always I can't remember where I heard it, but someone was saying you can't get a huge ego in a sport like cycling. It's just too hard. And I think that's really true. It's so humbling. You could be on the top of your game one day and get a cold and, get last place the next day. And so I think that is something that I always kind of remember, is you're always just trying to improve yourself. And also that, the amount of time that I spend competing on a World Cup course is just such a small percentage of what I actually spend my time doing. It is. And over the course of a lifetime, even if you do pursue racing at the top level, what you spend most of your time doing is training and riding your bike and spending time with your community. And those things I think are really important because they make up the majority of your life.
Very well said. And parents and coaches out there, listen to these sage words of the wise old Kate Courtney telling you this, because it's a hard sport, and staying motivated and having fun are the keys. One thing that I find generally rewarding about mountain biking, and I always preach this to my roadie friends who are like me, dyed in the wool roadies, say, "Oh, I never ride mountain bikes." It's like, well, on the road bike you have good days and you have bad days, but on the mountain bike I always see something cool, or I always ride a turn or a rock that I never rode. Do you still find yourself improving tremendously? I noticed you were sharing lots of clips in the last couple of years about how you improve. How do you continue to improve your skills?
Yeah, I think that's a huge one. I'll say first on the kind of, exploration and discovery point, even today, I was talking about, riding the local trails and checking my map. I don't know exactly where I am, and I'm looking at my phone every 10 minutes, and I was getting a little bit frustrated, and then ended up going up a trail, which I probably shouldn't have gone up. It was super steep and difficult, but I got to the top of this ridge, and all of a sudden you can see the mountain ranges in both directions. And I feel like those are the moments in mountain biking that are really special, and it can happen on an hour easy active recovery ride where you feel like you're lost and are getting attacked by mosquitoes, or it can happen on a day where you plan it. But I think that's something that we all can kind of appreciate about having this tool to go out and explore the world and the mountain. And then in terms of, what was the second part of the question?
Just improving your skills. I appreciate the exploration. That's well said. But improving your skills, how do you do that?
So actually, right now I'm doing a lot of that up here in Tahoe. I think, making sure that you're challenging yourself on trails and riding with people that are faster than you or that can challenge you is really important. But I do think that there's always a way to work on it, no matter what kind of trails or level of trails you have access to, if you're just being intentional about what skills you're developing. So for me and Marin, a lot of our trails are, I would say, less technical than something like a World Cup course. We don't have a ton of huge drops or jumps on our trails. But one of the things that I've been able to really focus on the Marin trails is, high speed descending and really, really efficient cornering. And, I've had obviously the trails to do so and have focused on that a lot. And I found that in many ways, that's even more important in a World Cup than a drop, because, everyone goes off a drop at a similar speed, and it's a 1 second feature where you might have 6 or 7 high speed corners after it. And if you can really master those, you can get a lot of time. So that's just one example of being intentional and using what you have, and identifying what you want to work on. And then of course, I can come to Tahoe and work on the drops, or I can work on jumps, or, break these pieces down. But I think there's always something that you can be focusing on every ride.
Cool. And you're still improving after all these years.
I have a long way to go on the descending.
So obviously this year you're not racing, but you've been doing a lot of other really cool things. You just had a Strava challenge finish up, can you tell us a little bit about, kind of how you've been kind of resetting your priorities for this year, and especially with the cancellation of the Olympics or postponement of the Olympics?
Postponement.
Yeah,
We're still hanging on. Yeah, I'm still holding out hope that we will get to, stand on a start line this year. Although, of course, with the European travel ban, it's up in the air, to say the least.
Or not in the air.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think for me, I'm lucky to have a really great coaching team. And my coach, Jim Miller, is really adaptable. And I think he is able to keep the long-term goals in mind. But for me personally, it's really helpful to have a purpose behind my training and to have some kind of intermediate goal and motivation right on the horizon. And with racing canceled this year, we've kind of had to invent that again and again. So first I did some local QOM attempts. I still have to go back and do Old La Honda again. This is a long-term goal of doing sub 16. So I will be back.
Okay, we were going to get on that. I was going to say, wait, you have the QOM on Old La Honda.
I do, but that's a whole thing. But something like that is a great motivation. And after we had, ticked off a couple of those goals, we worked on this challenge that was connected to fundraising for the World Health Organization Solidarity Relief Fund, which goes to COVID-19 relief. And that challenge, it was a 10-day climbing challenge. The baseline challenge on Strava was climb 10,000 feet. You can do it over as many rides as you want. A lot of people did it in one day. A lot of people upped the goal. And my goal, I was kind of searching for the right number. And as I was doing so, I was, checking the news on my phone, and we hit a big benchmark in terms of fatalities in the US. We hit 100,000 fatalities. And to me, that was just a really striking, massive number. And so I texted Jim and I said, hey, what if I climb 100,000 feet? And we had to cut it off there because unfortunately the toll was rising to a point that I don't know if I could have kept up with it. I would be climbing a lot more each day. But we split it up to 10K a day for 10 days. And that was a really awesome block for me. It was really motivating. It involved a lot of my friends and family, got me out riding new routes, and also raised a lot of money. So that definitely was a good intermediate goal.
So how many times at Mount Tam is 10,000 feet? About 3 times?
I think it'd be like 4.5 maybe.
4.5.
I did do one of the days on my mountain bike on Mount Tam. I did the second day. I rode Coastal, I rode Deer Park Fire Road. And then I realized that if I kept doing such inefficient climbing, it was going to take me so long to finish this challenge. So we ended up doing some, railroad grade laps. My dad did the second half of it on an e-bike and kept me company, but it was certainly one of the harder days.
All right, that's huge. You congratulations and well done to raise money for the WHO and COVID relief awareness. But I want to bring it back to some more fun stuff. Also, you accompanied Katie Hall on her record Everest challenge. Tell us about that, and when are we going to see you do it?
I did half of it with her. It was actually part of Rebecca Rush's Giddy Up challenge. So
yep. Shout out to Rebecca Rush.
Shout out to Rebecca Rush. She is awesome. And
the queen.
Exactly, Queen of Pain. And it was certainly a painful challenge. There were, I think, 4 different levels. And I toyed around with Everesting, but really, I think one of the keys for me right now is that I'm ensuring that these intermediate goals, these kind of fun challenges we're making up, they do serve a training purpose long term. So my 10-day block was part of my base for this kind of second part of the season. Then I came up to altitude. It kind of fit in well. And for me, unfortunately, that kind of longer day, the 10 hours it might take you to do an Everest attempt, it just takes too long for me to recover and isn't really in line with my training goals right now. So we decided not to do that, but it freed me up to really just be a support woman for Katie Hall. And that was really fun. I've, ridden a lot with her this year, and she's super strong, and it was great to see her have such a great ride there. Although I will tell you, the funny thing is that I signed up for Rebecca Rush's, I think it was the mashed potato. It was like the 15,000 foot day. And so I did my 15,000 and we didn't have service. And I thought it was like, man, I did 15,700 and something, and later checked it and I stopped 30 feet short. I like wasn't paying attention. And, I was like, oh, I'll do this. I'll just go support Katie. And so I earned the award of like closest to almost being fastest at the mashed potato.
Hilarious. You always go over the top of the hill.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well done. I love the fact that cyclists were such good friends, and misery loves company. So you're like, oh, you're going to ride 28,000 feet? Yeah, I'd like to watch you suffer for a while before I bow out and go home and get a Slurpee and
Exactly. Yeah.
Well done. So if I don't want to say that. No, I don't want to jinx anything. But right now your schedule is preparing for going back to World Cup, so you can't do anything too goofy.
Yeah, at the moment. And I think, long term, while this season might not be a big race season, there is still obviously a huge goal on the horizon for me. So I think the focus, and we have to, be really intentional about this year, is making sure that everything I'm doing this year is putting me in better shape when I head to the Olympics next year. So even if, it does feel like there's a lot more freedom and flexibility this year, we're still really on that plan, on that training program, and with that long-term vision in mind.
All right. So with that in mind, with the intentionality of your whole program, we saw that you took the QOM on Old La Honda, which for those of you who are not here, we're not talking about Marin County anymore. This is down by your old school in Palo Alto. It's a legendary climb. I think it's a Cat 2 on ranking. And Phil Gammon has it for the men, and you took it for the women handily. I noticed that it was on a 3-peat. You were doing hill repeats, and you got it on your second time around that day. Tell us what you were thinking when you went for that.
Yeah. So, we were all kind of just trying to find motivating ways to go really hard this year. And one of the ways that we've done that is through QOM attempts. There's really fast ladies in our area, and that makes it pretty competitive and challenging. Old La Honda is one of the most kind of contested segments, and I did it in 2018 before I headed to the Cape Epic. And that was the last time I'd done it. And I remember in 2018 being really upset I didn't get below 17 minutes. And now, 2 years later, this was my next attempt at it. I had lost the QOM between those dates and was able to get it back in 16:11. And now I'm really upset that I didn't go below 16 minutes. So I'll be doing another attempt at some point. But one of the cool things is Mark Slavonia, who's actually a local cyclist.
Shout out Mark Slavonia.
Shout out Mark Slavonia. He put up some prize money for Old La Honda. It ended up being a little controversial. He meant to put it up kind of just for the local women, which is we have many of the women who are on the Olympic long team very locally. Taylor Wiles, Leah Thomas, Katie Hall, me. There's a lot of people to contest that. And it ended up being a little bit difficult because it was publicized and people were saying, oh, you can't travel, COVID, understandable. So now the date for that competition is the end of December. But I'm hoping I'll be able to get that sub 16, take that prize money, and then the plan is to donate it to support women's cycling.
You've been super involved with Little Bellas. I mean, do you plan to do anything else? I think that's something that, how to help grow the sport with women. I think, that's something you've been really involved with, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit more before we wrap it up.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of my biggest kind of passions on the sport. And I know you said one of yours as well. And it's definitely something I'm thinking about, and long-term is something I'm going to be working on a lot more. I think, this year heading into 2020, my goal is actually to kind of scale back a lot of that work and focus on what I think is the biggest thing I could do for young women in America, which is win an Olympic gold medal. So was really focused on that goal. Obviously now have a little bit more time. So have been able to do some virtual meetings with GRIT, which is NICA's Girls Riding Together program, and hopefully find a way to still be involved with Little Bellas. I know they're fall Marin chapter has been canceled, which is really sad because it takes a long time for people to get into that, and it's a really special program. But yeah, long term, that's a huge priority for me, and I'm always looking for better ways to be involved. Of course, being able to show up and be involved with Little Bellas has been one of the biggest privileges and has been a huge honor for me, and I'm hoping to do more of that in the future, and also still work on that Olympic goal.
Bravo.
Very cool. Do you think you'll be racing, doing any, if you can't go back to Europe this year, will you do any US stuff, you think, in the fall?
Well, it kind of depends on if those races happen as well. So I think, currently I think there's a few races that have been rescheduled, but a lot of things are still really tentative. So for me, I'm just trying to, be a little adaptable and focus on keeping up with my training and staying focused on that. And then I'll be ready to line up whenever I have the opportunity.
Great.
So impressed how you maintain your enthusiasm and your bright outlook. It's wonderful. It's definitely lifted my spirits. I read too much news, and so so many of us are looking for sport to distract us from the real difficulties that some folks are having, and it's nothing wrong with escaping in sport and putting our hopes and dreams on our Olympic hopefuls and such. So we definitely appreciate it, and particularly the young ladies like the Little Bellas. That said, here's a segue for you. My little neighbor girls, Samara and Meadow, they're 9 years old and 5 years old. Huge fans of yours, apparently. Want to know what you're going to do to replace the Slurpees? What's a good substitute for a Slurpee?
I know this was a drama on my Instagram yesterday. I've had a couple Slurpees this week, and I was finally talked to my nutritionist, and he gave them the thumbs down. So I am working on getting a slushie machine and making my own. The limitation, sugar is not the problem, but high fructose corn syrup is something that we try to kind of limit in my diet. So trying to find an option that will be just as delicious, but won't have high fructose corn syrup.
Well, here's a hot tip. Slushie machine is basically a margarita machine. So, after you retire from professional sports, then you're ready to segue into Margaritaville. So.
Exactly. It's a multi-purpose machine.
Oh my goodness. What's to stop you from doing a Red Bull slushie? Come on.
Boom.
There we go.
And now we have it. Yeah. It honestly, though, I will say there's a real performance benefit to, like, slush ice is one of the things they say most helps keep your core temperature down if you're competing in really hot environments. So there is some science to back it up.
Well, this has been fantastic. I'm still gushing. You see Kate in town, and she's usually going by, see Rainbow Jersey go by. You're like, Kate! We're going to finish up with Caroline's going to tell us a little bit more about why we're here. Remind us to please sign up and support MCBC. Kate, any final words before Caroline signs us off?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me, and hopefully I'll see you out on the trails in Marin soon.
Thank you so much, Kate. Really, really appreciate everything, all your wisdom and support for Marin County Trails, and everything you're doing to grow the sport for women. So again, please go to, marinbike.org/lastsummer and enter the giveaway for a bike. My sponsor, Easton, has put in some pretty awesome prizes as well. And there is also a kit from Velocio and some swag from Ornat that's up for grabs. You will have until September to do that. So Kate's kicking off the season for us, but we have a lineup of some pretty awesome guests. Next week, Payson McElvin will be joining us from the Orange Seal Off-Road team. Again, thank you to our sponsors. Our title sponsor for the series is Dolan Law Firm, Marin Cyclists, Bay Area Bicycle Law, and the New Wheel are sponsoring this series. And we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your weekend.
Thanks. Bye. I'm going to go get a taco.
Go get tacos.
Thank you.